What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Epic Dad Legacy Podcast, the podcast committed to helping you level up your game as a dad and become the husband, father, and man you are called to be. My name is Drew Camp, founder of the Epic Dad Company, and I want to say thank you for being here. Our goal at the Epic Dad Company is to change the culture by creating more epic dads, because we need fathers to start showing up in a different way now more than ever. Our culture is in a tough spot right now. Our country's in a tough spot. You've heard that old saying that hard times create strong men create good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. I don't think that this is more true than it has been right now. Take a look around our society, our culture right now. We have had it great for so long, and that greatness has created weak men. Men that don't have values, they don't have core principles. They buckle under pressure. They don't make the hard decisions, and men that are afraid to do the hard, right thing. Well, as a result of that, we are heading into hard times. Just look around. Our culture's in decline. Our economy's on the rocks. We've got politicians more interested in the expression of self and authenticity than actually leading our country. We're on the brink of World War III. I mean, it feels like we are lining up for some hard times. So it is more important now than ever that we as fathers step up to the plate. We pursue personal excellence. We lead our children, we lead our spouses to make the hard but right decisions. And that's what this podcast is all about. So thank you for being here. My one ask is that if you are enjoying this show, if you're able to pull any value out of any one of these episodes, please leave us a review. We have guys ask all the time how they can help support our mission here at TEDCO, and leaving us a review of the show is the number one easiest way to help us forward our mission of creating epic dads. It takes literally 2 seconds. Just scroll down on Apple or Spotify and let us know what you think. Leave us your comments. Your review goes a long way with ensuring that other dads can find this show. They can dive in and they can start doing the hard work to better themselves and start leading their family, which is what we need as a culture. So help support the mission here, guys, and drop down and leave us a quick review. We would definitely appreciate it. Okay, guys, with that, let's jump into today's episode. Today, we have on Ryan King. Now, Ryan is a friend of mine that I met through the Apogee Strong Dads program, which if you haven't checked that out, you absolutely need to. It is run by Matt Bodrow and Tim Kennedy. And it is a 12-month-long program that's helping dads really take a look at themselves and craft a new vision for their life, for their family, and start executing on that vision. And Ryan's in that group with me, right? And Ryan is a dad. He's a business owner. He's a thought leader when it comes to the traditional roles of fatherhood and masculinity. Ryan has garnered a lot of attention and a pretty substantial following over the past year or so on social media through his handle, The Wisdom of Kings, where he posts long-form, thought-provoking content about how we can lead our families and fully step into our role as fathers and husbands. Now, this conversation was a ton of fun with some huge takeaways, especially about how important it is to get our kids involved in sports at an early age. Now, Ryan credits his experiences with competitive sports as to what has driven him to be successful in the business world as the founder of Guardian Payments, which has led to financial freedom for him and his family by the time he was 35. So guys, it's really hard to provide a preview for this conversation because we talked about so much and I had so many key takeaways, and I know you guys will too. You are not going to want to miss this conversation. So let's hop into this episode with the Wisdom of Kings himself, Mr. Ryan King. Are you ready to become the dad you were meant to be? Good, because this is the Epic Dad Legacy Podcast, where imperfect actions are better than perfect ideas, promises kept are more important than promises made, and nothing happens unless you make it happen. My name is Drew, father of 3 and founder of the Epic Dad Company. My mission is to help dads up their game and become the husbands, fathers, and men they're called to be. Thanks for listening. Now let's start the episode. All right, Mr. Ryan King, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, Drew. How are you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. I'm psyched to have you on the show. Been following on social media and got to know you a little bit through the Apogee Strong Dads program, and so pumped to have you on, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So, I wanted to honestly just kind of spark a conversation, about fatherhood, about leadership. Your Instagram handle is Wisdom of Kings, right? And that is very interesting to me to really break that down and look kind of at some of the content that you're putting out. That just seems like a wealth of knowledge for how old you are, which is still relatively young, right? But
Yeah.
kind of you have that that kind of spark of ancient wisdom. So like tell me the story behind hopping onto social media, creating some of that content around fatherhood and leadership.
Well, I kind of just got to a point where I just realized, like, if I'm not going to do it, if I don't do it, nobody else is going to, apparently. So just observing the kind of stuff that was being said, and the people that were holding themselves up as, advisors or people with experience or wisdom or whatever. I would listen to their stuff and I would just kind of roll my eyes and, like, that ain't it, and
Yeah.
finally it was just like, I don't know. Like, for me, I was never a big social media consumer. So my life started out, like, my adult life started out, my wife got pregnant before we got married. And so we, had basically a shotgun wedding. And I got thrown into the deep end at 25. My oldest son was born on my 25th birthday.
Okay.
And at the time I thought that was a pretty normal age, but now I look around and, almost everybody I know that my kids are, like, on the same sports teams with them or whatever, are like 8 or 10 years older than me,
Yeah.
for the most part. And so I got into it, fatherhood and all that stuff, pretty young, especially now. People aren't getting married until they're 35 or whatever, but and so for me, it was just like, I just had to dive in, like, there wasn't like a gradual process. I just had to dive in and start learning, and I had to establish a career financially. Like, neither my wife and I, neither one graduated from college. Like, we had nothing, and so it was very much like, okay, all hands on deck. We all of a sudden now, in a very short time period, have to build a foundation for a life. You know,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
it's
so
funny that I was just saying, it's funny you mentioned the young age, right? At 25. I mean, it seems like that now, right? Like you said, I think people are putting off having kids until older and older and older in life, but there's such amazing fulfillment you get from children, right? And it
oh
feels like
yeah,
your life, like, I don't remember life before kids, I'm like, what did I do? Like,
yeah.
did I have hobbies? Like, like what did it look like? Because
It
everything now is
seems
the
so empty and fruit, and just,
yeah, yeah,
like, there's just, I think having kids, it forces you to grow up. It forces you to be selfless. It forces you to think things through in a completely different way and really reflect on yourself, because now you got somebody that's really paying attention to how you're acting and what you're doing. And if you want to be a good father, which hopefully, it's not the case, but we should, as men, all want to be good fathers. Um, it just changes your whole perception, and now going back to thinking about doing the stuff that all these guys are doing in their 30s, I'm just like, y'all can have that. Y'all can have all of that. Y'all can have 100% of that. I don't even want to taste of going to the club and going out with your buddies and all that stuff. Like, I've gone out to the bar a few times with my buddies, like, they're single or don't have kids yet or whatever.
yeah.
And dude, I am so bored. I'm like, how do you, like, what do y'all enjoy this still? This is weird, man. Like, too.
Yeah.
It's like, I feel like I'm, like, playing with Hot Wheels cars, like, pretending to enjoy it. It's like, yeah, this is fun. It's like, dude, it's not fun anymore. Like, I outgrew that a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't know. There's just so much more important things in life, and once you
Yeah.
start to build that family, that's when you realize it, right? And like I'm the same way. I don't think I've been to a bar or a club in years, and I think it'd be the same thing. I'd be like, this is just like, what are we doing here? But it's
Yeah.
funny you mentioned you weren't really a social media user, but you would see some content and advice that people would put out that you're just like, no, that's just terrible advice. Like, what type of stuff were you seeing that just totally just did not resonate with you?
I mean, the main thing I think that doesn't resonate with me is how, um, people are trying to adapt to the format of social media with, like, these short form blurbs. They're trying to make these it's basically like we've seen it our whole lives, right? Like before the social media, it was on infomercials, like the get rich quick scheme, or the hot buns program that you could buy on VHS at 2 o'clock in the morning.
7 minute abs.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, no, life isn't like that, man. And people are taking this advice and they're taking it literally. And the reality is that nothing works that way, And so so pretty much, everything that I saw, whether it was about politics, or whether it was about, the pandemic when all that stuff was going on, or whether it was about relationships or whatever, I'm like, I can't shut up anymore. I just can't sit by and let these idiots control the narrative anymore. Like, I've got to do something. And so for me, even on Instagram, like I started about a year and a half ago. Instagram, nobody at the time, especially, and still very few people. I read like a blog.
Yeah, I would say it's very like long form content,
Yeah.
right? And where everybody has the attention span of 3 seconds, right? Right now, right? It's like you get so much more out of that, and having like a almost an open conversation on a platform like Instagram, and like that's why I love the podcasting world so much, is you can sit down and have a discussion and like really get in deep.
Yeah.
That's where it's through an Instagram reel or whatever. It's just very surface level,
Yeah. And that's why a lot of people have told me, "Oh, post more often if you want to grow, post more often, or do more short form stuff." And it's like, guys, I don't have anything to say in 90 seconds. If you want to talk to me, I'm going to tell you how to really be effective at leadership, or sales, or business, or marriage, fatherhood, or whatever. And I can't have that conversation in 90 seconds. And so if I can't explain it fully, I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And you're not like a full-time Instagrammer, right? So, I want to know, what do you do? What do you do full-time?
I've been retired since I was 35. And so I have one thing. I have a severe sleeping disorder where my body clock doesn't reset. And so, like for a lot of people, if you were to go to Dubai, you would have jet lag and you'd feel weird for 3 or 4 days, and then your body clock would adjust to the time of whatever it is in Dubai, and you would go to bed at night and wake up in the morning. For me, I have a disorder where my body clock is fixed and it doesn't adapt. So it's called delayed sleep phase disorder, and it's actually like a disability. It's on the Americans with Disabilities Act or whatever. And I've had that my whole life. My son has it. And so my body clock is basically set naturally to sleep from about 4 a.m. to noon.
Yeah.
And I can make myself, just like you, right? Like if you had a flight to catch and you had to wake up at 3 a.m., you could, and you could go do it, but you wouldn't be you. You know what I mean? Like you'd be out of sorts. Your mind wouldn't be sharp. You just, I just got to get to the plane, and then I'm going to go back to sleep or whatever, right? Like if I go outside of my body clock, that's kind of what I feel like. And so just to live a normal life where you wake up at 8 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. or whatever, like I can make myself do it if I need to, but that it's like 40% of me. Like I'm kind of like a zombie,
Okay.
So
no, I've never heard. That's got to be extremely challenging, right? I mean,
it's it was the bane of my existence. For a long, just imagine being in college and trying to do well in college, and you wake up at 9 and like my brain won't turn on. It would be like telling you to wake up at 2 a.m. and do a sales presentation at 2:15 and be like sharp.
Yeah.
Or for me, like going to bed, at 10 would be like telling you like, hey, it's 4 p.m.
Yeah, just go to sleep. Yeah.
Go to sleep right now. Even though you're not tired and you're wide awake and you're jazzed up, just go to sleep and wake up at midnight and be ready to rock. It's like, it wouldn't work, And so it caused a lot of problems when I was building my business and when I was in college and even in my marriage, because for a long time I didn't know I had a disorder. I just, like most guys, I just thought I was a pussy, like
I'm just tired all the time for some reason.
Yeah, and so yeah, that was really tough. And so now, since I'm retired, I just go with my body clock, and so I stay up until about 2:30 or 3, and I'll wake up about 11, and that's been amazing for my health and just my mental, peace of mind and all that stuff is just being able to feel rested, um, and then I go to the gym every day. I read a lot of books. My kids, I'm really involved with my kids homeschool, and so
Hmm.
I'm really involved with I wouldn't say really involved with that, but I'm involved with homeschooling, and then they're both playing sports, and so I coach and stuff at night, and so and even my family, like our schedule is a little later in the day too, just because my
Hmm.
schedule is a little later, but because we homeschool, we're able to do that. So yeah, I mean, and then I write on Instagram,
Yeah.
and between taking care of my health and going to the gym and eating right, and you
Yeah.
know,
Well, you glossed over something that I think probably everybody heard, was that you have been retired since you were 35.
yeah.
I think that's a lot of people's goals, right? I'm 36 and I'm not retired. So keep me in on what I'm doing wrong. What did you do?
Well, I told my wife when we were dating, um, I'm going to be retired by the time I'm 35. Um, I don't like, I've always been very contrarian. And so I remember like being in college, and people would say, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? And it's, of course, at the time, 20 years ago, when you thought about a career, it was a 9 to 5, 40-hour a week sort of structure, right? We had in our
Hmm.
heads, we're going to work 9 to 5, 40 hours a week. And so I was, thinking through all the things that I could do 9 to 5 for 40 hours a week. I'm like, I don't want to do anything. Like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Nothing. There's nothing on the planet. If you told me that I could have sex from 9 to 5, I've got to wake up at 7:30 and have sex from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.,
Hmm.
40 hours a week for 30 years. I wouldn't even want to do that. So my answer to that is, I don't like that game at all. I'm not going to play it.
Hmm.
I'm going to find a different way. And so I kind of reverse engineered it, where I just started looking. I was in sales, and I knew that that was kind of my talent. But most sales jobs reset. If you sell something, you only sell it once.
Hmm.
You get paid for it once. And so I started looking for any and every opportunity that I could, to where how can I do something that I can sell it once and keep getting paid on it forever.
Yeah, your continuity. Hmm.
Yeah, and I didn't even know the terminology for it back at, this was back in like 2005, 2006. I didn't even know there were words for things like residuals or
Hmm.
recurring income or all those things. I was a kid. I just knew the structure of, I want to bust my ass for 10 years and just build something that has a life of its own after that. Get the ball rolling, get the momentum built up, and let it keep going. Um, and even I think a couple of years ago, I read the Almanac of Naval Ravikant, and he termed it as leverage. How do you leverage? So many people are exchanging their time for money, and at a certain point, you reach a cap. Even if you're a neurosurgeon, like if
Hmm.
you ever stop doing neurosurgery, you're not going to make any money anymore.
Hmm.
I mean, even if you get paid $5,000 an hour,
Yeah, there's only
eventually,
so many surgeries you can do, right?
yeah, you run out of hours in the day. So it's all about leverage. How can I invest an hour and get paid on it for 100 hours or whatever, right? So you've got to, and so that for me was what I looked for, and what I still look for is, like, if I'm going to work, I want to work really hard once and
Hmm.
then be done.
Hmm.
And and so that's kind of where the I ended up stumbling into the payment space. And the only reason I got into the payment space was because it had the characteristics I was looking for, and something I could build once, and it would take on a life of its own, and I would keep getting paid on it forever. And I mean, I still own the company. I just I've hired people to run all the day-to-day stuff, and
Yeah.
I work, 40 hours a year
Yeah.
still.
Yeah, that's another part of leverage, right? Is not only from a residual and like continuity payments perspective, but also how can you leverage other people too, right? Because there's only, like you said, with the neurosurgeon, there's, yeah, you can only do so many surgeries in so many hours, right? But hey, if you are a neurosurgeon and you hire other neurosurgeons and train them how to do it, right, then you can leverage your time more effectively that way
And
too.
it's almost like it's almost like a battle plan, like where there's different phases of, step one is this and step two is this, and you kind of just execute this sequence of maneuvers. um, and so for me, step one was money. If I wanted to hire people to make myself obsolete, I had to have a surplus of money beyond just what I needed to make. And I had to go sell enough to be able to afford to hire somebody else that I could replicate myself into. And so first was sales. And then it was hiring people. If you think about it, like hands on a clock, like midnight, 12 o'clock is sales for every business. You got to have sales. If you move to like the three hand on the clock, it's hire people and hire people. The six hand is like train them, and then the nine hand is review them, and then at that point hopefully you have other people that can sell, and the whole thing is self-perpetuating at that point. And so that was the rough outline I had in my head before I ever even got into payments. As I kind of had an idea of, it's like the chess player that thinks several moves in advance or whatever. Like I didn't know. And that's what I tell a lot of men is, I come at things from the opposite direction a lot of times. Like I didn't know anything about payments. You know what I mean? Like I didn't seek that out. I knew that. I think a lot of people miss out on opportunities because they don't know it for what it is when they see it. And so for me, I think the fact that I'd mapped out what I wanted to do and how I knew the structure needed to be, it helps me recognize when I came across the payments industry, oh, I can execute that battle plan through that business and it would work. Right. Whereas, like a t-shirt company, I can't do that. Right. I sell a t-shirt. There's no guarantee they're going to come back and buy another t-shirt from me.
No, it makes sense, and especially about the planning, like putting emphasis on planning, right? Of kind of having that time to sit and think strategically about how the plan is going to work. I think a lot of guys, they think, hey, I just got to be taking action to get results, and which is true, right? Like you're going to need to take action to drive the results you want, but is it ultimately in the direction that you want to go, right? And I think you got to define where you want to go.
Think about it, and I think a lot of it, man, is in a lot of ways, I feel like modern people are like zoo animals that forgot how to hunt. You know what I mean? Because like if you think about it, like my son, right? If I tell him to clean his room, he's going to come up with a way. He doesn't want to clean his room, so he's going to come up with a way to get it done as fast as possible, so that he can be done with it. And I think a lot of men, we've almost like made an idol out of work ethic. And which is, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with work ethic, but it's kind of dumb to just put your head down and grind if you're grinding in the wrong direction. Or if you're grinding in a dead end. It's like it's like you've got your eyes down and your foot is on the gas pedal and your car's up against a wall and you just keep putting pressing the gas. And it's like, dude, like I get that you want to get moving and get going, but there's nothing wrong. Like for me, I call it the virtue of laziness. Like I don't have a great work ethic. I work as hard as I need to get the job done. But I'm going to think through, like, what is the fastest way I can get this shit over with? Because I don't like doing this and I don't need to prove anything. I don't need to prove anything to myself. Like, oh, I've got great work. I've got as much work ethic as I need. I'll outwork anybody if I need to, but I'm not just going to go do it and feel like I'm accomplishing something.
I love that analogy of just having your foot on the gas, your head down and you're up against a wall. Like every now and then you need to be able to look up, right? And be like, okay, am I making progress? Right.
Like,
how am I measuring my results?
Like, if I'm going on this journey in my, proverbial car, it's like, I'm going to find every shortcut I can. A lot of guys just take so much pride in their work ethic that they take the long way around and they go over roadblocks and then they hit a brick wall and they're like, no, what I read on Instagram, this is the way we got to keep going. And it's like, dude, you're up against a wall right now. And there's no balance of like, if I've got to drive from here to Florida, I'll do it, but I'm not going to enjoy it. I want to be in Florida. So I'm going to get there as fast as I can. And I'm going to look for every shortcut, every way around it that I can get. And if everybody else is going a certain way, I'm not going to be afraid to be like, you know what, I'm going to go this other way because I think it might be faster, even if there's nobody else on that road. I'm going to trust myself and I'm going to take that shortcut while all these people sit in traffic.
Hey guys, interrupting this episode real quick to tell you how we keep this podcast going. And that is by you supporting the Epic Dad Co., or TEDCO for short. TEDCO is the only premium natural supplement brand designed specifically for busy dads just like you. We create 100% natural, 100% label transparent, incredible supplements to help fuel your journey to be a better athlete, leader, provider, but above all, a better father. We believe that the best way you can show up for your family is to start taking care of yourself first. Our first supplement we've released is an all-natural pre-workout designed specifically to help you get to the gym, get an effective workout in, and get back to doing what you do best, fatherhood. TEDCO Pre is loaded with clinical doses of the most important ingredients you want in a pre-workout, including 6 grams of BCAAs, 6 grams of citrulline, 5 grams of creatine, and 3.2 grams of beta-alanine. Hop over to theepicdad.com and use discount code LEGACY. That's discount code LEGACY to get 20% off your first order for being a loyal listener of the show. All right, let's hop back into this episode. Yeah, so you worked your ass off from 25 to 35. What did family life look like then? You've got a young son, another one at some point in time in that mix, right? A big focus, for this podcast, really our brand is trying to be the best father you can be, which a lot of times that's going to be provision, right? Providing, monetarily and that, but it's also providing leadership, providing direction, providing vision, being present in the family. So like, what did that balance look like? And what was the buy-in like from the family for working so hard?
Well, I think in a lot of ways it helped with me and my wife because of our situation, knowing that we didn't follow the formula. And it was like, we went from like just kind of hanging out and having fun and, going to the bars on the weekends and stuff like that to all of a sudden, like,
Damn.
oh,
Yeah.
shit just got real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It is real now. And so it was kind of an all hands on deck situation. And I just told her, I said, babe, especially like with my sleeping disorder, like I have very little free time, very little energy. And so I just told her, I mean, the first 5 or 6 years are mommy time. Like there's nothing I can contribute. They're not going to remember me. Like they just need nurturing. Like I'm telling you, and I need you to trust me, that by the time they need me the most, when they're 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, that's when they need dad. Right now they need mom. They need to be consoled when they're crying and all that stuff. Like there's not a whole lot I have to offer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour everything I have into getting us to a point to where when the time comes that they need me the most, I won't have to work at all.
Mm.
And so there really wasn't balance. It was like, I'm going to completely finish this project. And then once I'm done with that project, I'll have all the time in the world for the other projects.
Yeah. Do you feel like you missed out on some things for those years? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel like it's affected my sons at all. They don't remember whether I was there or not. They have no memory of it either way. It is hard for me because, my only memories there was really like a 4-year time span where I was really like, all I did was work. If I was awake, I was working, and that was it. And I have no memories of my boys in those 4 years other than pictures. Like Lauren will send me, my wife will send me pictures, or I'll look at videos or whatever. And yeah, man, it's hard. It's heartbreaking. But that's a sacrifice that I chose before it ever happened. And, I would do the same thing again, because now, the amount of time that I have to pour into them and not be distracted by work, or, not be stressed out about what's going on at work, and really just be able to spend time with them. Like a couple of weeks ago, we just randomly decided to drive to Dallas, and we spent like 3 days on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just the three of us down in Dallas, going riding go-karts and, going to sporting goods stores and eating food that they'd never eaten before. And, we talked the whole way down there, the whole way back, so it's just one of those things where it's all gone according to the plan that I put in place, when we found out we were pregnant. But everything has a cost, right? And that's one of the things that I feel like, again, with Instagram, it's given people a lot of, it gives a lot of people the impression that you can have it all. And it's
Mm.
like, you can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time. You know,
Yeah.
you can't take a shower and eat dinner all at once, even if Instagram is telling me like, oh, eating dinner is important and taking a shower is important. And I feel like it gives a lot of people this impossible thing where it's like, if you're working your ass off to try to make money, you cannot also be at home changing diapers. They're mutually exclusive things. Yes, ideally you can do both, but that's like saying, well, why can't I fly? Just jump up in the air. You just can't. Like, it's not, I can't be in
Yeah.
two places at once,
Yeah.
and I think financially, as a man, especially if your wife's not working and you want your kids to stay home, be able to homeschool and all that stuff, like, until you've built your finances up to the point where you have the capacity to take your foot off of the gas and it can somewhat be self-sustaining, your priority has to be finances. If and I would say that there's an important caveat, like, if you're in a position where what you're doing financially is temporary, right?
Mm.
Where, like, if you're in an industry, or if you're pursuing a career that by exerting 100 hours a week now, it means you'll only have to do 5 hours a week later.
Yeah.
Then
They'll go back to leverage. Mm.
yeah, then get the 100 hours out of the way all at once as fast as you can, and then you'll have all the free time in the world to spend with your family. Now, if you're working, a lot of guys don't have that option, right? If you're working blue collar, if you're working at a corporation or whatever, then yeah, you do have to have that balance. But you're also only working 40 hours a week, not 100.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think, there's different seasons in life, where we're going to have different focuses and emphasis, right? And you had a season that was a busy season for work and financially. And then now you got into a season where, hey, I'm going to be focused on family, right? But you made that conscious decision. And I
Yeah.
think that's something that guys need to think about a lot more often is, what I'm going through right now. It's not going to last forever, right? Things are going to change, circumstances are going to change. And I personally hate the word work-life balance.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think there is such thing, right? And I think it's all about the intention that you're bringing to the activity that you're in. And
Yeah.
so, excuse me. So like, I'm a big proponent of the work-life balance thing is bullshit, and that when you're in something, you need to be in it 100%, right? And so if I'm at work and I'm working, I am in the zone, right? I am working. But then when I make that transition and go, shut work off and I go to the home, like, work is done. I'm not trying to balance that in my life now. Like, I am done with that for the day. Now with my family, I'm gonna be with them 100% of the time. And I think that the amount of time that we spend in each of those buckets is going to vary based off the season of life that we're in. But I think it's the intentionality that you bring to that activity that you're working on.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, what I was doing was very demanding mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of men have never, the guy that runs my business now, he'd always ever done construction, and he was used to being out in Arkansas where I live. I mean, doing construction in Arkansas in the summertime, it's like 105 degrees with 80% humidity. Like, it's one of the most physically demanding jobs you can do. And when I brought him on after the first couple of months, he said, "Man, I didn't know what tired was
Mm-hmm.
until I got this job. Like, mentally demanding jobs are so much more draining than physically demanding jobs."
Mm-hmm.
So for me, a lot of it was, even when I wasn't working, I mean, my mind had nothing left. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was awake, but I had nothing left in the tank to be like participating and putting puzzles together with a 2-year-old or whatever. It was just like, I'm like a vegetable. Like, I'm spent. And so I think a lot of men, you have to know yourself. You have to know your plan. You've got to, you've got to know, like, nobody's gonna. My wife believed in me. Like, she believed me when I said, like, I know I'm not very active right now. I know that I'm kind of checked out right now, but the commitment I made to her when she was pregnant and repeatedly over the years was, hey, this isn't going to last forever. But I don't enjoy this either. I mean, you think I like working 100 hours a week, and
Mm-hmm.
like, you think I don't even like I don't even like payment processing. Like, it's not like I'm at the bar with my buddies or on the golf
Yeah.
course or something. You know what I mean? I think that's an important distinction, because, my wife and I didn't really have a lot of problems about how much I was working and how so much was on her when it came to the child raising, because she knew that what energy I had was all going towards what was going to be best for our whole family,
Mhm.
but I frequently recommunicated that to her.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a big piece too, the communication piece, right? I think a lot of times husband and wife aren't on the same page, of what does that vision look like for us and what's it going to take to get there, right? And there is, I hate to bring that word back again, but there is that balance, right? Of because there is only so much time and so much capacity that we have, right? And so, when we think about, let's just say, I mean, let's just say we have 100%, right? And in this phase of life, like I need to be giving 80% to my career, my job to build us up financially. It's like you have to be on the same page,
Yeah,
with your spouse on that, or else there's going to be constant conflict, right? Of
yeah,
hey, you're working too much, you're never here, you're never
yeah.
around,
And I told her, I said, babe, I'm not withholding anything from you at all. I haven't, like, I'm giving you everything I have. It's just that what I have to give is pathetic. There's no, there's nothing left. Now, next weekend, I don't have anything going on. Let's plan a day trip. Let's take the kids to the petting zoo or whatever, and like that's the best I can do, right? It's like it's quality over quantity sometimes.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I mean it's one of the ways I explain it is, if you think about a rocket, trying to get into orbit, I mean it uses 90% of its fuel to get into orbit, because
Mhm.
getting the rocket off of the ground and away from gravity far enough up into the atmosphere that it can just stay in orbit and use no fuel at all. It's really damn hard as a
Mhm.
man, especially if you're following this path that we talk so much about on Instagram or the Apogee Dads program, where if the goal is for the wife to not have to work and potentially homeschool your kids or whatever, if that's all on you as a man, like you got to understand you're gonna have to use all the fuel you've got
Yeah, just to get in
get,
momentum.
just to
Mhm.
get into orbit. And then once you're into orbit, it's not going to be that hard anymore,
Mhm.
but the more you try to pull back on the velocity of the rocket to balance now, the longer it's going to take to get into orbit.
Mhm.
So you can choose to put 50% into getting into orbit and use the other 50% for family, or you could just be like, hey, I'm going to put my head down, I'm going to give everything I have to getting into orbit, and then I'm all yours. We can do whatever you want. You want to
Mhm.
have a water balloon fight on a Tuesday? Let's do it.
Yeah.
Like I can do anything I want to now.
Mhm.
I mean, right, me and the family had picked up in the middle of the day. A couple of years ago, it was like 8 o'clock at night, and my son wanted to go to like a water park in November. Um, he was like 8, so he didn't know. We saw him. We watched a movie about a water park or something. He's like, I want to go to a water park. And my wife just looked up a hotel in Kansas City, which is about 4 hours away. It had an indoor water park in the
Let's
hotel.
go. Yeah.
And I said, let's go. And it was Tuesday and we left at midnight on a Tuesday and just spent the whole week at this water park in Kansas City in a hotel. And so, yeah, I missed out on a lot of stuff, but I've also got now a lot of memories that nobody else, very few people have the freedom and the money and the
Mhm.
freedom to just be able to go do stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I can also say that I envisioned that and planned that out from the time I was 25 years old.
Mhm. Yeah, that sense of planning, and then also the sense of discipline, right? That it took to get that business off the ground and to grow it when you had that much energy into it. Where does that come from? Is that something that you got from your father? Is that something that you got along the way growing up? Like, where does that come from?
You know, I think every man has it. Like 100% of men have it. That's why we get obsessed with things like video games and fantasy football and all this
Mm,
stuff.
mm, hmm.
I don't think of it as discipline. I think of it as like every man has this thing where we get obsessive about something. Like we want if it's a video game, like I want to unlock that new camo for my gun, or I want to have, what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I want to win my fantasy football league or whatever. And like when you have a specific goal in mind, every man in the world is disciplined all the time. And so for me, it
Mm,
was like it's almost more like hacking your own biology than it is like
yeah.
a discipline thing. It's like if you figure out how to make a game out of it, and
So they say turn it into a video game.
yeah, it really is. It's not much different than that. I mean, there's even guys that don't play video games. If you give a video game to a guy, to a random masculine guy,
Mm-hmm.
he can't not be addicted because it plays into our psychology so perfectly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
There's a scorecard where we can see how we're progressing. We can compare ourselves to other people's performance. There's always a new mission. There's always something else to unlock. I mean, those are all like, there's a reason guys get so addicted to that shit. If you can take the concepts of what makes stuff like that addictive, every man, there's a lot of men that we wouldn't call disciplined, but they're really disciplined about their video games. They get up, bro, and they play for 12 hours. They don't eat, they don't
I
sleep.
know, man. I'm thinking of myself in college and Call of Duty,
Yeah, think about it. And so for me, I don't really consider myself a disciplined person. I know myself well enough to know how to get the most out of myself by hacking my own inclinations
Mm-hmm.
and turning it into a game.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. How did sports play a factor at all? I know you grew up playing baseball, which I did as well.
Yeah.
Played at the collegiate level. Did you play college ball too?
I did.
You did? Where'd you play at?
Central Arkansas.
Okay. What was that, a D1 or D2?
It was D2. They're D1 now, but they're like D1 triple A.
Yeah. Okay.
Like whatever
Yeah.
that weird thing is. It's like, just call it D2, guys. Come on. Like,
Yeah. No, I played at Valdosta State, if you ever heard of
oh, I
them.
know
Down in
Valdosta.
South
Yeah.
Georgia, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I know
It's good
Valdosta.
program now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I played in a semi-pro league in Jackson, Mississippi, between my junior and senior years, and there were a lot of guys from Valdosta in that league.
Okay. Yeah, it was fun, man. Fun place to go to school, play ball. And then I played summer league, like wood bat league, for the Atlanta Crackers.
Oh,
If
cool.
you heard of them, it's the old like Negro League. It still kept the same name and stuff. It's fun, man. It's a blast. But
Yeah.
what position did you play?
I was a pitcher.
Pitcher? Okay, I was a catcher.
Oh,
So
nice.
very cool, man.
Okay.
You righty or lefty?
Righty.
Okay, how hard did you throw?
I threw 94 about 6 months ago.
Seriously?
Yeah.
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 Okay. 94. Wow.
Yeah.
What did you throw when you were in college? About the same?
So it was funny. I didn't plan on playing college baseball. My high school baseball career was awesome, and I won 2 state championships. I won a state championship in high school. My senior year, I was the MVP of the state tournament, and then I won a state championship in Legion Ball in that same summer, and I was the MVP of the state tournament in Legion Ball too. And I wasn't really interested in playing college baseball because I didn't want to just pitch.
Mm-hmm.
When I wasn't pitching in high school, I was catching or I was playing shortstop. I was bloody and dirty, and like I felt like,
Yeah.
And man, like pitching where you just play once a week, it's just like, it's awful. It's terrible. So I wasn't planning on playing, but it was funny because when I was in high school, I weighed like 155 pounds or whatever, and so my sophomore year of college, I just decided to start working out.
Mm-hmm.
And I gained like 25 pounds of muscle. And so I went to UCA, and I was driving by during and I saw a sign that said tryouts today. And so I just went and parked and got out and said, I want to see how hard I can throw. And I was wearing cargo shorts, flip-flops, and like a Abercrombie polo. And I just walked out there for tryouts, and they all looked at me like I was insane. And I had to go last or whatever, and I had to borrow a glove and borrow cleats and stuff. And I just kind of grinned, and I was the last person that got to pitch, obviously.
Yeah.
And in my very first pitch, I just reared back and gassed it up there. And the coach screamed, "Holy shit," and fell out of his chair. So I just kind of smiled and I said, that must have been pretty good. And so afterwards, I threw about 10 pitches, and he stopped me, and he walked out there and he goes, "Who the fuck are you?" Like, I said, "How'd I do? I must have done well." And he showed me the piece of paper, and it was 93, 94, 95, 92, 93, something. And I don't know that I'd ever thrown 90 before in high school. We didn't really have radar guns a lot, but it was funny because I went out there and threw 94 in cargo shorts and a polo. And so,
Flip flops. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. You'll probably make the team if you do
yeah,
that.
yeah. So I played that year, and then I played that semi-pro year, and then I tore my labrum while I was playing semi-pro ball, and I was like, I got draft cards or whatever, and I was projected to be drafted in like the 50th round, or how the major league draft
Yeah.
works. It's like,
Yeah. You get paid like $1,000 a year.
yeah, like $1,000 a year to be a 50th round draft pick.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've got other things that I want to do. So after
Yeah.
my labrum's still torn, I never even got it fixed. I was just like, I'm ready to move on. And
Yeah.
that next summer is when I started doing sales, and that's
Okay.
kind of
Yeah, I was the same. I did so I had a career ender injury as well. So I got my senior year, I got hit by a pitch against Francis Marion University up in, I think, North Carolina, I think is where they're at. It was a lefty that was throwing about 93, 94. And I was a right-handed hitter and two strikes. And so I was choked up like on the plate, and it was lefties like tailing into the right-hander.
oh yeah.
And so I was, two strikes, right? So inside pitch, I'm like coming around, to like check swing, and I see it's tailing into me. So instead of like turning my back, I didn't have time to. I
Oh
just kind
yeah.
of went like this, and
Yeah.
it bam popped my forearm. And people in the
Oh,
stands were like, we knew it was broken. Like the second it hit you, like you just hear it like boom,
oh
just
yeah.
like blow up. And it was my senior year, so I'm like, I'm not coming out. Like this is it.
Yeah.
Because I was really good defensively behind the plate, but I wasn't the best hitter. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to play pro. Like, even if I do, it'd be the same thing. It'd be like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to go play, for like rookie ball for $1,000 a year.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not coming out. Right. So I ran out of first, and like it happened. And I was like, dude, it's broken, man. Like I feel it. Like it is definitely broken. But I ran out of first, and then ended up coming around scoring, and then went and changed, got my gear on, came back out to the plate, and was catching like the warm up pitches. And like I couldn't even throw it back to the pitcher,
Oh
It's
yeah.
like he was like,
Yeah.
and then I was like, shit, man. I was like, all right, that's it, it's over.
Yeah.
And so went to the hospital, got casted up, and that was the rest is history, man. That was it. And then after that, I joined the military, so I went a different route.
Oh,
Post college was joined the military right after. So,
oh, that's awesome.
but yeah, man. I mean, there's so much that I learned from sports,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and some of just some valuable life lessons around teamwork, around hard work, around discipline that I've carried into the military, and then now into my adult life, and really trying to distill that with my children too, and make sure they're involved in not just individual sports, which I think is important, but really team sports, right, and like being part of a team, So
Yeah.
what
I
did
would
that do for
say,
you as far as baseball?
so it was an interesting thing for me because when I was done with baseball, in my mind, I was like, my kids aren't playing baseball, because at the time I was because I'm a smart guy, and I have a lot of things that I could have been good at, and I felt like I had wasted so much of my time pouring energy into baseball that I could have gone to an Ivy League school instead, and I could have a business right now or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt like it was a waste of time. And it wasn't, but then like when I got into sales, um, I didn't know anything about sales, and um, I was working for Verizon, and this was
Okay.
back around the time that iPhones and stuff were coming out. This was like in 2005, and so it was like an explosion of technology at the time, and so there was a scorecard I found out that showed where you ranked in sales, like in your store, and you could go all the way
Mm-hmm.
up to the national level. And so, me being an athlete, I was like, oh,
Yeah,
there's a scorecard.
gamifying it. Yeah.
There's a game. All right, well, I'm going to win. And so, training was actually backed up like 4 months. And so by the time I went to training, they were going through and teaching the scorecard to people in the training class, and I was the number one in the company in
Before
training.
training.
In
Yeah.
training. And so she brought me up to the front. She was like, is that you? I was like, yeah, that's me. She said, will you come up here and teach how the scorecard works? And I was like, sure. And so I ended up like teaching the training class when I was in training. And I attribute that to sports. I
Mhm.
attribute that to like, I got really good at sales because I wanted to win.
Yeah. Mhm.
Right. Like, and so that was the catalyst for me learning all those skills and being good at it and doing all those things, really was just like a video game. Like I want to beat the high score,
Yeah.
right? Like I want my name to be at the top. And I think that was kind of a big part of it. Was very obvious to me the more experience I got in the real world. I can pin now within 5 minutes if somebody was a competitive athlete or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's a totally different mindset with somebody that's used to winning, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And I was having this conversation with my son last night, because he's very athletic, he's very talented, but he's almost too humble. He feels like it's like there's something wrong with like admitting to himself that he's really good. And it's like, dude, like that, I feel like that is the biggest thing that has helped me be successful at everything I've done, is that I go into it, even if I've never done it, I go into it, I'm going to win.
Yeah.
I'm going to dominate. I'm going to chew whoever goes up against me. I'm going to chew them up and I'm going to spit them out. And I'm going to make them quit.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there is no alternative. And I think I got that from sports, but it immediately seamlessly made me great at sales.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I've
I
never,
think,
I mean,
mm,
that I never had any experience with, that I didn't know anything about. I've never read a sales book. I've never done anything. I just like, I wanted to win. So I just kept trying different things over and over and over again until I figured out what worked. And I just kept iterating on that. No different than what we do in sports, like we have a bat at bat and we're like, we make an adjustment,
mm,
like, oh, I got a hole in my swing. I'm going to watch film. I'm going to hit the tee and I'm going to keep, because I want to be the best. And because I want to be the best, that's the catalyst that generates all the other activity that people see as discipline.
mm,
It's not
yeah. Is
discipline.
it drive to excel
It's
and
not.
compete? Yeah.
I'm not disciplined. If you ask me to like do something that I don't want to do, it's like, hey, go be really disciplined about, weed eating. No, I'll do the minimum amount that I have to do and put the damn weed eater up because I don't like that. And I don't care to win. If you want me to be good at weed,
I was about to say, yeah, is making a
hire
neighborhood
somebody else and
competition.
let's have a race.
Yeah. Making a neighborhood
So,
competition of whose yard looks the best.
yeah, it's this obsessive drive to be the best, and
Yeah.
I think once you get, and I think sports teaches you that. And when I get out into the real world, whatever it's about, whether it's sales or business or Instagram or whatever, it's like, if you didn't play sports at a high level, you're not ready for what somebody like me or you or anybody that is unlike, because I think every human being has that drive
Mm-hmm.
in them. They just haven't learned how to tap into it yet.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, I think sports is one of the, and so you hear, I've always been fascinated, but like you hear these stories about how like a woman can like lift a car off of her kid. If her child is pinned underneath the car, all of a sudden she's going to just go pick the damn car up off her kids. Like she didn't know she could do that. The situation required something that
Mm-hmm.
she, it required her to tap into something that was actually there, but life had never forced it to come out. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sports drive us to tap into that, like you're saying, is and it helps at an early age, right? Like my girls are 6 and 4 and they're playing softball this year. I'm the head coach. It's a ton of fun, right? But like I let the parents know, I'm like, hey, we're gonna be competitive. Like we are playing to win. I think even like instilling that at an early age is that. It's funny, like before this league, they were young enough to where we weren't keeping score. And like naturally the kids would come up and ask, be like, hey, did we win? Did we win?
Exactly.
And so like it's
Exactly.
there. It's just
Yeah.
sports really help us tap into that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, it's been very obvious to me in my business career or Instagram or whatever, or even guys like when I talk with a lot of guys one-on-one that DM me through Instagram. It's like universally, so many of these things we talk about with masculinity being weak and stuff now, it's like all the guys that I talk to, almost universally, none of them played sports.
Mm-hmm.
And they never learned the lessons that I learned, where it's like you've got to have like some level of like irrational confidence, like,
Yeah.
and people that didn't play sports think it's arrogance. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
it's like, no, it's armor. It's armor against failure.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise we would collapse. There's so much failure in sports, like the best, whether it's baseball or basketball or whatever, like Steph Curry's the best shooter that's ever lived, and it's like he still misses like 55% of his shot. Like
Yeah.
that irrational belief in yourself where it's like, I'm going to chew you up and I'm going to spit you out. You're going to be curled up in the fetal position when I'm done with you. Like, to somebody that didn't play sports, that sounds like arrogance, and it's really not. It's armor against failure. You have to have that kind of self-talk to jack yourself up. But man, competing against somebody that hasn't learned how to tap into that side of themselves, it's like arm wrestling a toddler.
Yeah.
You're not even ready. I mean, you're going to bring everything you think you're capable of. That's like a drizzle compared to the storm that I'm going to bring.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
when you get another guy like you that has learned how to tap into that stuff, now all bets are off. Now it's a prize fight. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it
Yeah.
doesn't work on everybody. Because at some point you're going to meet people. But by and large, the vast majority of guys haven't ever learned how to tap into that primal animalistic, like, there's only one. It's like two lions, right? And there's only one gazelle. Either I get it or you get it. We ain't gonna be nice about it. I ain't got it ain't nothing personal.
Yeah.
But if you try to get in my way, I'm gonna do what I gotta do.
Yeah, for guys that didn't play sports, right? You say you come up across them all the time in DMs on Instagram and stuff like that, and like they haven't been in that competitive nature, right? So they haven't been able to tap into that. How do they tap into that later in life? Because I feel like you have to be able to tap into that to be successful, right? To keep going when it gets hard, like when you fail, like you're gonna have to tap into that. So how can guys do that if they didn't have sports growing up?
I mean, a lot of the guys, I think that some of it depends on I haven't quite completely figured out the answer to that yet, to be honest. I mean, a lot of the guys that I talk to, once I tell them, it's like they have it and they want to be that way, but they don't feel like it's okay. Because they feel like, oh, well, I'm going to be arrogant, or it's going to be toxic, or whatever, and just having another man just affirm, like, no, bro, like, you need to have irrational confidence. Like, it's okay to be like, no, I'm going to beat your ass. Well, you've never done that before. I don't care. Watch me. Get in my way and see what happens. I'm just telling you. A lot of guys, when you tell them that, they just smile and they're like, okay. And I just tell them, like, man, just get your swagger, man. Like, just quit being afraid to like muffle yourself and just let it out, man. And I would say half of the guys that I talk to, that's all they need. And they'll message me later and they're like, bro, my wife tried to come at me sideways last night and I just told her, like, hey, we're done with that. We're not playing that game anymore. And they just walk off. And they come back and tell me later that their wife was like, wow, that was really hot that you did that.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid to do it because they think they're going to get in trouble. And it's like, and I tell them, like, don't be a dick, but
Yeah.
don't feel like you have to be a punching bag to not be an asshole. Like, there's a difference between being an asshole and just standing your ground.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys feel like it's wrong to even stand their ground instead of being like, I know you're like, one of the phrases I tell guys, it's like, a lot of them are moms, it's like, let me explain something to you. I know as a mom, it's your job to monitor every little thing the kids are doing to like take care of them and stuff. And that's good. And I appreciate that. Let's make something clear here. You ain't my mom. I'm not the guy that you're going to nitpick about every little behavior that I'm doing. Believe it or not, I survive all day long away from the home without you perfectly fine. I don't kill anybody. I don't go crazy. I'm somehow able to function without your input. You're not my mom. Stop mothering me, And a lot of guys are like, you say that? I'm like, yes, I say that. What's wrong with that? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't call her names. Abusive. It's just reminding her, like, hey, I ain't a kid. It's not your job to police my tone of voice.
Yeah.
Mind your business. You're not my mom. And a lot of guys are afraid to just stand their ground that way. But when they do and they have that swagger, their wife likes it. You know what I'm saying? And so as far as how to teach it to the guys that don't have it, man, I don't know how to unlock it. I think you need to search for situations that kind of like that mom pulling the car up off of her kid. Like, you've got to put yourself in a situation that requires more out of you than you think you have.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like once you dig the well and the water starts coming up, like, the water's there now. Right. And I think sports kind of proverbially do that thing where you dig this well and you tap into, like, there's this inner, source of life, like water in this analogy, that's been there the whole time, but you had to dig a well down into it. Right. And I
Mm-hmm.
think you have to manufacture some sort of situation that requires you to endure the failure, and that, what it's like as an athlete, how often you fail, and how the mental aspect of, like, going 0 for 8 in a doubleheader with 3 strikeouts and you made the game losing error. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you got to wake up tomorrow and put the gear back on and go
Yeah.
do it.
Go right back and do it again. Yeah.
And like, that's all kind of chiseling away at your core as a man. And eventually you tap into that wellspring that's there. And I think I firmly believe every man and woman, I think it probably manifests a little bit differently with women, but every man has that inner wellspring of toughness or resilience or talent or, genius, right? But you have to put yourself in situations that force you to tap into it, where, like, no mom wants a car to land on her child, but it did give her awareness, like, holy shit, I can lift a damn car if I need to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you imagine how much swagger that woman has
Yeah, I know, right?
after doing something like that? Like, once you know what you're capable of, you can't forget it.
Mm.
So I think for a lot of men, that, my advice would be, find something, put yourself in a situation that require that, going into it, you don't have what it takes to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole point is to learn how to tap into what you truly are capable of, because you haven't been challenged enough. And I think for most men that haven't unlocked that, it really comes down to the common thread of, you've never been challenged hard enough that you had to dig down so deep that you had no choice. You have to put yourself in a situation with no way out,
Mm-hmm.
that you have to find it within you somehow to perform something that you probably shouldn't be able to do.
Yeah, and I think once you do that too, it's going to build that confidence for the next round, right? Like you talked about having that, that confidence. It's like, hey, I've never done this, but I have the confidence to know I can figure it out. It's like you have that confidence because you've been in that situation and you figured it out in the past, right? So the more times you do that, the more confidence you're going to have, right? Which is going to be like this perpetual cycle, right? Of I'm confident because of the things I've done, and because of my confidence, I do more things,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, you got guys deadlifting in the gym a lot, right? Like, if tomorrow you were at the gym and there was an older woman, that somehow, dropped 500 pounds on herself, and somebody had to go pick it up off her. As a dude, you might have only ever deadlifted 300 pounds, but if it's an emergency, you go over there and you pick that weight up and pull it off her. You're gonna look at yourself in the mirror and be like, holy shit,
yeah.
did I just deadlift 500 pounds? And once you know that, you can't forget it. It
Mm-hmm.
changes what you see in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't unremember that you actually have it in you to lift more.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why the biggest thing I recommend to men is, like, dude, go throw yourself into a situation where it's like you have no choice but to perform like an emergency, and you'll be shocked at what you're capable of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's great advice, man. I think a good way to be able to do that, right, is with physical fitness. I think is a big one, right? To be able to tap into that energy, to tap into that kind of the dark side, right? Is what I like to call it. Is that energy that helps you perform at the highest level.
Yeah.
And a great way to do that is physical activity. It's super hard, strenuous workouts,
Well,
right? Yeah.
here's an idea. Like, take it even a step further. Do something that has an audience.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm a Brazilian jiu. I'm doing jujitsu, or I'm doing Muay Thai. Or whatever. It's like, okay, schedule a fight,
Yeah,
public fight, and
yeah,
invite your family.
yeah. Like I have no option, right, other than to get
And
embarrassed. Or
know
yeah,
ahead of time that you're going to get your ass beat, and do it anyway.
yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
put yourself in a situation that like you're going to be embarrassed if you fail. Like there's got to be more even outside of you. Like
Yeah,
you,
it's gonna be a stakes on the line.
like if yeah, there's got to be stakes, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
what a lot of men are missing. I don't think that's what sports really provides is stakes.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I strike out right now, everybody I know is at this game and they're going to see it. All my teammates are going to blame me for it. Like men have to learn how to deal with that pressure and failing their family, failing
Mm-hmm.
everybody that they know. And like once you handle that a little bit, all of a sudden you're not going to have a fear of failure anymore. You're just going to
Mm-hmm.
be like, I might fail, I might succeed, but it is what it is. And I think that's what's missing the most in the modern world is stakes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's okay to fail. It's like it wasn't okay to fail in the year 1600 if you were out hunting and you had a shot on a deer and you missed it and your family starved to death. It wasn't okay. You had to hit the shot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you miss a shot, it was like, oh, it's okay. You'll get another chance. It's like you might not. You might starve to death. And that's I
Yeah.
think what we're missing the most is that there's no stakes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that's what I would challenge. But it's like, yeah, I think physical fitness and stuff like that's important. But if it's going to be physical fitness, then go enter a CrossFit competition and get 78th place.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I was in shape. Like, no, go enter a CrossFit competition and try to win.
Mm-hmm.
Go box a professional boxer in front of your kids and let your kids watch you get your ass beat.
Yeah.
Like, it'll work. It sounds crazy, but it'll work. Because you'll stand there and just because your kids are watching, you'll stand there and you'll take 50 more punches than you think you could have taken.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get back up and but you'll know then how tough you are, even if you lose. Like I never would have thought I could have taken a beating like that and kept going.
Yeah. No, I love it, man. I think we have so much more potential, I think, than we give ourselves credit for. We just have to figure out a way to tap into that, right? To find that energy that's going to help us succeed. So Ryan, I know we're both on schedules, man. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. But where can guys go find you? I know on Instagram, the Wisdom of Kings, but do you have a blog that guys can go to as well that's kind of more long form?
No, Instagram's all I've got for now.
Okay, well, cool, man. We'll
energy.
Yeah, no, we'll link in the description, and guys, definitely go check Ryan out. I think you guys will be pleasantly surprised with some of the content that you're putting out. That's more long form, right? It's not short, little surface level stuff, but really getting in deep. So Ryan, we'll definitely have to have you back on, man.
Yeah.
I want to on next conversation really talk about fatherhood leadership, how you're approaching raising sons in today's environment. So I've got a little son myself. He turns 1 here in a few days. So that's totally transformed the way that I think about, raising kids and having a son now. So definitely want to get your perspective on that too.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to.
So, all right, Ryan. Well, guys, thank you for joining, and go check out Ryan, and we'll see you on the next episode.